For CGTN, I'm John Zarella.
Macollvie Neel joins us now from New York City. She's a writer and communications consultant and serves as the managing editor of the Haitian Times. Thanks so much for joining us. You know, we heard there John Zarella saying that in 2021 things went from bad to worse. Why? Why is this Haiti's fate?
Well, thank you for having me. Thanks so much. It's good to be back here on CGTN TV. I think what we have to remember is what we're seeing happen with Haiti has been decades in the making. And so it's going to be decades in the making to get it right, is kind of where we see us landing after the year that we've had. As you mentioned, or the correspondent mentioned, we've seen a year where it started off with gangs kidnapping Haitians and no one was safe, and it's ended again with the gangs now seemingly in power because of this vacuum that exists. And in the middle of it, we've seen the assassination, the earthquake, and the migration crisis that you mentioned. So while there have been a lot that has chagrined us, astounded us, and made us just wonder what's going on, I think there have also been some stories that continue to inspire us even as we go into 2022. And one of those would be actually some of the stories that make us smile are the artists that continue to work in Haiti, the entrepreneurs that continue to try to create businesses and put food on people's tables. So even though, yes, on the world stage, it's a story that seems to be never-ending gridlock, gangs, fuel shortages and explosions, we are inspired, at least from the diaspora, to do better and work better with Haiti going forward in 2022.
All of this is happening here in the Western Hemisphere, in the U.S.'s backyard, essentially, the world's sole superpower. What role, if any, should Washington have in helping Haiti get better?
So that's a really good question, where we've seen the State Department been involved a little bit, but not as much as I think some people would like to see, especially with the kidnapping of the missionaries. We've seen different people call for them to go in full force and just essentially take over, short of military action. We've also seen lots of people stand up and say, no, this has to be a Haitian-led solution. Let's work with civil society and the diaspora to try to make it happen. So at this point, Washington, has said they're willing to support whatever happens once Haitians in Haiti and the diaspora come together to come up with solutions that they can then support. So that's kind of where we are as far as Washington. We've also heard a lot about Haiti potentially looking for other partners outside of the major superpowers, the U.S., Canada, France, and even the UN, because that model just hasn't worked before. So we'll be looking to see how what's possible, when it comes to working with other partners in the Caribbean, the Latin American countries, because they're the first ones that are now seeing the influx of Haitians leaving Haiti. There are a lot more Haitians going into the Dominican Republic, for example, or going to Chile first before they even make their way into the U.S. So I think those countries they have been complicit in the entire history of Haiti up to this point. They have been complicit in the migration crisis, and I think there's an opportunity for them to also step up going forward with Haiti.
Macollvie Neel from the Haitian Times, thanks so much for your insight.
Thank you.
Up next, becoming